Hello, everyone. We're just going to wait a couple minutes as people are kind of shuffling into the Zoom. So please stay tuned. And hopefully finals week has been going well for you. Hopefully you're done. I don't know if maybe if you could put in the chat if you're done or how many finals you have left to go. That would be awesome. Yay, we have one person that's done. I'm assuming that probably the people attending the session are probably done. I don't know if people would actually want to come out to something. I know that my brain would probably just be fried and I wouldn't want to do anything. And I'm just like, spring break. Okay. Well, just in the interest of time, it's already 4:01. I'll go ahead and start with introductions and then we'll pass it off to our speaker. So once again, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the Social Science 195 information session presented by the UCI Social Sciences Academic Resource Center. My name is Carissa Sorensen and I'm the SARC director. I'm also joined by my colleague, Patrick Del Rosario, who's the SARC program coordinator and is behind the scenes doing all the tech stuff. And our special guest today is Christina Flores, who is the Assistant Director of the UCI Early Academic Outreach Program, also known as EAOP. And she'll be providing us with an overview of the Education, Policy, and Field Studies course. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and submit them through the Zoom Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. And if you, again, have any questions or comments, you can also use the chat too, but we'll be addressing all questions at the very end. So without further ado, Christina, I'll go ahead and pass it to you.
Thank you, Carissa. Thank you everyone for being here today. Like Carissa mentioned, my name is Christina Flores. I'm the Assistant Director of the Early Academic Outreach Program. And if all of this feels super new and you have no idea what these acronyms are, then you came to our spot. Today, we're gonna really go into what the field, what the course is, and also a little bit about what we do, and so to see if it might be a good match for you and what you're looking for, okay? And like Chris mentioned, if you have any questions or if you want to raise your hand, stop me at any point. It's mostly a conversation, so I do have some slides, but I'm going to go through them. They're very brief, but at the end of the session, I would really like to answer any questions or provide any additional information that you might want at that point, okay? So let me go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I want to share is just the structure of the class, because it's not the most common structure that you would find at other UCI courses. So I actually went to UCI. I graduated a long time ago. You're probably in elementary school when I graduated. But I took this class and I took other classes with other professors that were similar to this, because I was interested in not only in the academics, but also getting professional experience. So, sometimes these courses turned into work for me. So that was one thing that I was really excited about when I started working with this program. So the class is a combined effort by the Early Academic Outreach Program, which is a college access program that works with high school students in the local community, that's offered by the Office of the President for the UC system. So the governing body of all the UC system, every campus, UC campus, has an early academic outreach program. And it's state funded. You can find us in any campus, and they're doing work with local high school students to make sure that they're eligible for college admissions or even competitively eligible. In a non-global pandemic era, we would go visit high schools, we would do conferences, field trips, and right now all of our services are virtual and remote. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later, okay? So we have now a position where students were interested in doing field work with us, but we didn't really take volunteers. So we had student staff. We employ about 25 student staff every year, and they're with us the whole year, and their hours, once they're employed by us, their hours can count towards educational science majors or also If they fill out the placement site, they can do it with social ecology. And so our staff were always able to get paid for their fieldwork hours. And that was something that we were excited to be able to do with students because we do value a lot of the work that they do. But we always had like volunteers that just want, they didn't need to work. They weren't really looking for work. Maybe they had other jobs already on or off campus. They just wanted to volunteer or do their fieldwork studies. So we created and partnered with this class, which is Social Science 195, Educational Policy Field Studies, to offer this to students that were interested in just being 1 quarter with us. And they would give them an idea of what we do, and then you would fulfill your internship hours, your fieldwork hours. So it was like a win-win for us, right? So every year we offer this class in the winter, but this year we're also offering in the spring and making that available to students who might be interested. Okay, I know that was a lot of information. So if you have any questions, go ahead and drop in the chat, but I'm going to go into more details. Okay. So again, like I mentioned, the Early Academic Outreach Program is a program that has been around for over 50 years, almost 50 years, I'm sorry. And it's really aimed to create access to post-secondary institutions. So even though we come from the UC system, we're not interested in recruiting students. That's what makes us, that's the biggest difference between our programs and like admissions, right? Where they're interested in talking about UCI, we're interested in talking about higher education, post-secondary. So it could be community college, it could be at Cal State, it could be at UC, it could be a private, or it can be even an out-of-state school. So that's the biggest goal for us. Our student staff go into the local high schools or right now meet virtually with students to do academic advising. So they plan their A through G coursework or other admissions requirements from 9th grade to senior year. And they also monitor all their other extracurricular activities that combined would prepare you to go to college, make you eligible, and hopefully for some students, make them competitively eligible to go into higher education. Okay. We are guided by 4 standards, and these are the standards that we use to build any program or any project that you would be part of with us as an intern. So we have academic enrichment, which means we allow students to either make up classes if they got a D or an F, and then we also sometimes have some additional opportunities we can learn something different or get a little bit ahead, okay? When we used to do entrance exams, right, or in this global pandemic, everything's looking a little bit different. But even for some of the campuses, or for some students that are eligible to take some testing, we still are working with that because even though the UC doesn't require it anymore or is going to phase it out, the CASA system might, and then private schools or out-of-state schools might. So we still have this, you know, as a standard for us. The big one for our student staff is academic advising. So it's guiding and advising students from freshman year to take the right classes to be eligible for college and to make sure that to challenge themselves and do other things that would make them more competitive. And the last one is college knowledge, and that's where the professional staff comes in, like myself and my colleagues. We go into the school and we'll do presentations for our participants that are enrolled in our program, for classrooms as desired by teachers, school-wide events, like if they're having like a senior day, and district-wide events. So like if the district is having a parent night, we'll go in and do a workshop, or we'll do parent workshops. So we are at different levels of this. Our student staff work directly with the high school participants. Our professional staff works directly with the school administrators, and the leadership of our program and our center work directly with districts to make sure that they are really moving the needle to make students eligible for college. So like more policy. And that's what really drives this class, the fact that it's not just like us advising one-on-one and working with one student, but our program is really meant to change the culture of college going in our communities, especially communities where you see students that don't match, right? That there's a lot of them, but there's not a lot of them going to college. So that's the policy work that we do, okay? Hence, why we're in this course, why we offer this course, which is Educational Policy Field Studies, right? So this is really to get into the policy of access to higher education. And combined with this, we do involve research as a part of that, and how to not just do research for an academic space, but also to do like policy research, which is a little bit different, right? You're looking at different things. So that's what those are two things that drive this class. Okay, we're going to look at different factors: social, cultural, psychological, economic, linguistic issues. I would encourage you at this point, if you have a passion of something, like, oh, I'm really interested in undocumented students, I'm really interested in minoritized students or historically marginalized students, low-income students, first generation, any population that you're interested in. We've had students like really take a unique look into that and what their college access journey looks like. And depending on the opportunities, right, you will be able to do some work with the schools. And this is where we really take a pause in our class and really investigate like what you're interested in. So we don't have outline projects, specific projects for you to work on. We're really more really interested in seeing like what you're interested in, and then placing you within the within that space to make sure you get some experience in that. So it is, and I think, to be honest with you, right, that might be the most challenging thing, that we're going to ask you to communicate with us a lot, and that it puts a little more pressure, right? Or you have to kind of build those connections and really relate to what you're interested in, what you would like to see, what you're passionate about, and hopefully that will develop into a project for you, okay? So what are our work hours or fieldwork requirements? You will do up to 40 hours of fieldwork, but because this class is defined differently, it's not necessarily like those hours are only service hours. We actually give you credit for hours for doing the academic portions of this. So if you're analyzing data, we count that as fieldwork hours. So it's not always in the context of like, are you meeting with people, or are you working on a project or an assignment, but it's like, are you doing the policy analysis? Are you doing the data? Are you looking into some of the standards, the California standards of, you know, graduating or who gets to college? Those will also count as fieldwork hours. So it gives you kind of like a different opportunity. And then it's also a little bit more forgiving in this remote space where you don't have to like be meeting with people or finding tasks, because a lot of the tasks that were associated with entering at a site are not happening right now, right? Because we're all remote. So this academic portion or the research portion does allow you to accrue some of those hours a little bit faster. And it's because it's on your own, you're more likely to accrue the hours and versus like waiting for someone to give you a task, okay? Another keyword that I mentioned a couple of times, but I'm not sure how folks in the room feel about, is research, right? Being part of the Research One institution, that term can just sound like intimidating, but we actually walk you through the process to really build a project that you will be able to turn in as an assignment, okay? So let me show you what the requirements are for the class. So you're gonna do your 40 fieldwork hours that combine some service and some of the research project. We're gonna have some discussion boards. If we don't have a lot of people in the class, then we won't utilize the discussion board like on Canva, but we'll have the discussions within class time. Just because for Canva, you have to have like more than 2 or 3 people, right? And then the class projects that will be determined by some of your research questions or your special interests, they will lead to a midterm and a final paper, okay? And the final, I believe, is like 3 to 5 pages. So it's not a 30-page pre-thesis, pre-dissertation type of research project. It really is a more like of a policy memo or analysis on of the data in regards to education and higher education. Okay. So, and just the course details, it is remote, it is synchronous, because it's more of a discussion versus lectures. You won't find it asynchronous. You have to be available at this time, which is Mondays, 3 to 4:50, and it will meet every Monday for the 10 weeks, and then we won't meet final weeks unless we have presentations. And then office hours by appointment. And I didn't mention this, I'm sorry, but the instructional team is made up by the Deputy Director of the Center for Educational Partnerships, which is where our program is housed, and then the EAOP professional team. So the director, myself, and then program staff that will all kind of come in and out of the class to give you that opportunity to interact with us and learn more about what's happening at the schools and really get an idea of what access to higher education programming looks like from a more administrative or more data-driven lens. Okay? So that's all I have. And I actually wanted to, I'll have my contact information, but I can do that later. But if you have any questions or if you want to raise your hand, that's a very, I think, brief overview of the class, but I think it gives you enough information that maybe it answers all your questions. But if you have any additional questions, you can drop them in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christina. And yes, feel free to put in the Q&A or the chat function. We do have a couple pre-submitted questions as well, so I can also ask those as we are waiting for questions to come in. And Christina, you already mentioned this, but just wanted to clarify, and perhaps it's on other people's minds. So this specific course will satisfy not only the school social ecology field work requirements, but also the field work requirements for education. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So at the end of the class, you just need a letter. So it's a little bit softer than the process for social ecology. For social ecology, you would have to submit a placement request and we would have to approve you to a site. So it might not be the best fit for spring because I think those deadlines already passed. But for the School of Education, for the Educational Sciences major, at the end, we just give you a letter confirming that you completed these fieldwork hours, and then Ed will waive those hours for you as completed.
It's kind of a relevant question as well in the chat. So we have someone asking, would this qualify as an elective requirement specifically for the school social sciences? I'm not sure if you know that.
I actually don't know that. I think you might have to go to your academic advisors for that one, just because it might differ depending on what the major requirements are in the school requirements. I'm not sure. And if you already did something similar, so I would check with that if you're really looking to specifically meet that requirement. I did go to UCI, but it was a long time ago, and honestly, I don't even remember how I graduated, so I would check that out. Thank you,
Awesome.
Sarah.
Yes, please ask your academic advisor. But yes, please continue to submit your questions. Another pre-submitted question that we received was, what areas of linguistics do you all focus on in this course? Is this course taught like a research class or as a seminar? And you kind of touched upon that a little bit.
Yeah, it's mostly, I think it's a little bit of both. So it is a seminar, and it's not going to be as academically, because it is field work and academics, it won't lean too much on academics for the research project. It is mostly like a project to get experience with it and start looking at the overall process, but you are not be graded on how well of a researcher you are. It's mostly like combining that fieldwork experience with the research questions that you might have. I think there was another second part to that, Carissa.
Yes. So what areas of linguistics do you all focus on in this course?
Linguistics specifically for higher ed is looking at access for linguistically diverse students. So do English learners have the same admissions levels than other students? And this is not in an international context. So not looking at like TOEFL or students coming in from another country that might speak a language as their primary language, a different language, by looking at like English learners in this country and where they're at with college access and if it's an equitable process.
Great. So our follow-up question that we have is, one student is working part-time and they are a full-time student. So how flexible is scheduling your field hours work with the high school students?
This is really flexible because, and I think this is one of the benefits of doing an internship with a campus affiliated program is that we have to respect that your number one responsibility is being a student. So then we work around that, right? Like for example, our students take midterms and finals week off if they need to, because you're not working at, the Olive Garden where they make you work, I worked at Starbucks when I was a student, so those schedules are tough, right? If if you ask for a couple of days off, they might be like, yeah, for sure. Just, you know what, don't come back at all. Or they might, that's bad labor practices, but that's what happens, right? So we are very flexible. The fieldwork hours are really going to be, I think, in the remote space, but we've seen it's really on your own, those fieldwork hours, like analyzing your data, working a research project. And then if we do have opportunities to work with students and you're interested in that, we would work around your schedule, which sometimes very similar to the student schedules. Right now they're doing a lot after schools or even like early weekends. But what we're noticing right now because of this remote experience is that it's a little bit friendlier to students that have different types of schedules, right? Not everyone's available from 8 to 2, Monday through Friday. So we will work around with you on that. And if you, in good faith, like if you put in the effort and we can match you, then there shouldn't be an issue. We never really have a big issue with that.
Perfect. Sounds good. So hopefully that answered your question. If anyone else has any last minute questions, feel free to put them in the chat function or the Q&A. Looks like we got another one. Would you recommend this course for someone looking into getting a master's in public policy? Or is this more for those interested working in education?
So the topic of the class is education. So obviously we're going to relate to most like concepts towards education. But I think if you look at it from like just a general discourse of what public policy would look like, education is a big example. And it's, I think, a field that is strong enough and significant enough that can provide an idea of what public policy looks in other fields. So it is going to be heavy, but I think you would get an idea of what public policy looks like. And it might be interesting, right? So if you're interested in like social policy or health policy, transportation, public policy has a lot, right? But it might give you an idea what it looks like in other fields.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
that's a really great question.
Yeah, that's
Go
really,
ahead.
yeah. I did want to share my screen again so you can have my contact information before everyone flies away and soon. And see.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Share. Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Sorry.
And
a little slow.
No worries.
But
and we'll be sure to, everyone will get a follow-up email with the course information in case you are ready to take that next step in enrolling, and we'll be sure to provide that.
Yeah, so here's my contact information. Feel free to if you want to follow up directly with an email or a phone call, or if you want to text me your question, you can also do that. Or if you want to have another Zoom and say, these are kind of like the things I'm thinking about, what do you think would be a good match? I'm also open to that. So go ahead and do that. I know you're going to start your spring break soon, but I would be open to those conversations also. And the last thing that I wanted to show you as we kind of start wrapping up is basically a lot of the coursework and a lot of the input in the class is to see if students would be interested in this work. Not only, or even a field of study for a graduate level program. So we actually are also hiring. So if you're interested in maybe not the class, but the work, that's the application. If you're interested, I can also send you that through an email. But that's really the goal of the class, to give you enough idea of what Access looks like through the research perspective, through the professional experience. And then if you're interested in working with us, then we do offer academic year-long positions if you're not graduating this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christina. We just greatly appreciate your time and for partnering with us. And thank you so much for all the students who are attending today. We just want to remind you that the Social Sciences Academic Resource Center is available to support your professional and academic endeavors. So feel free to schedule a consultation with us. We are open during spring break. And I'll go ahead and also put our I think Patrick's going to go ahead and put that in the chat for you all. And yeah, feel free to reach out to us and schedule with an appointment with Patrick or myself and our peer consultants as well. But thank you all so much, and we'll go ahead and let you go and enjoy your spring break. But take care.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.